Alright, today I'm going to show you guys how to do a DPF, diesel particle filter delete, on a 2014 Chevy Cruze 2.0 liter turbo diesel. Alright, so buying the Oz tuner kit, you get a downpipe, you get a couple of cords that come with it, some instructions, your programmer, and EG. Alright, let's remove the engine cover. And we're going to remove this heat shield. Be careful not to drop your bolts. And this one on the face is just a nut, not a bolt. Alright, heat shield is disconnected, but it can't come off until you take off these sensor wires. Alright, we're going to move our NOx 1 sensor, which is right here, and your EGT sensor number 1 right here. So I grabbed like a 22 and I broke it loose. Be careful with those. And then I'm going to take a 17 and break loose this EGT sensor. Alright, pull these guys out. 1, pull this guy out. 2, and boom, off comes the heat shield. Thank goodness. Alright, there's an EGT sensor number 2, which is right down here. You can see my wrench. You can get a 17-inch long-handled wrench. You can get it down on there and then break it loose. And we can undo and take that one off. This sensor right here, we're going to leave that one on until we remove the DPF from the car. Just let those hang. Alright, next thing is we're going to remove the nuts that are holding on the lower heat shield, as many as we can get to. You can see one right there. There's one right behind, you can see right there. Just move the cord to see it. There is a lower one that you're not going to be able to see on camera. It's way back underneath there. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to jack the car up on blocks, which I've done over here. And then we're going to remove this splash guard. There's a push pin right here. There's a bunch of 7mm bolts, so we're just going to go ahead and take each one off and remove this thing. Goes pretty easy, and then there's a few more underneath that we're going to have to get to, and there's a couple more push pins down there. Alright, we're going to remove the oxygen sensor 1, which is this one coming out here, because this lower heat shield is going to have to be threaded through that wire to get the lower heat shield off. So what you want to do is you want to follow this oxygen sensor cord up to the radiator, and we're going to want to unclip it so you can see this thing right here. I'm just using some clips and get that clip off. It loosens up, and keep following the wire up, and you'll come to the plug-in, which is right here. hard to see this thing. And all right, once you find this clip right here, we're gonna wanna take it out by pushing in these little wedges and sliding it out from the radiator. That. And then we're going to push this piece inwards, and it should separate the connector like that. And now we'll be able to feed that wire through the heat shield when we take the heat shield off from the top. All right, now we're going to try to take this heat shield off from underneath, release the bolts, and I think there's 3 of them on here, 10 millimeter. We're just going to get on these and take them out. There's one. There's 2. And the third one is up on that side. Right there, but I can't get a ratchet on it, so we're going to use a box wrench. If you use one of those ratchet-ended box wrenches, you can get just enough to turn this thing loose like this. And then, let's see, should be able to get it here with my hand. I'm going to move this. Alright, we're going to try to take this heat shield out. So we're going to take this and get this little sensor wire through the hole first. Alright, so that fit the wire through the heat shield. Now we're going to pull this heat shield up, hopefully. Alright, like that. There's your heat shield. Alright, let's remove the exhaust bolts. There's 2 13 millimeter bolts that are holding this DPF onto the engine block, and then there's 2 what are these guys, 15 millimeter bolts holding onto the oil pan that we're going to remove. I don't think you can see these, but you can kind of get the idea where I'm at. There you go. Not too bad. Now we're going to try to remove this turbo clamp off of this DPF. I'm just removing the bolt. So I ended up getting some pry bars and a hammer, and I pried this thing apart until I could finally get this thing loose and get this bracket off of it. So there were 2 more bolts down on the bracket that hooked it into the engine block that was holding it on, and they were very difficult to get off. Plus they were so far up in there I couldn't videotape it anyway, but maybe when I take this off I'll show what it looks like. Alright, now that the DPF is out of the way, I can show you this bracket. So what happens is this bracket has a bolt right in here that went to the DPF, and there's a nut holding onto a bolt that's coming out of the engine block. And same with this side over there. And those 2 nuts have to be removed. This one and this one. And then the DPF will come out with, this bracket will come right off. You can see right there, there are a couple of vacuum lines coming in on the side of the DPF, right there and right up there. And there's just a couple little hose clamps that are hooking them on. So I'm gonna get some channel locks here and go down in there and undo those. And then the DPF should drop out through the bottom. All right, after you get those two vacuum lines off, this thing should come out pretty easily, supposedly. Let's see. And yep, it actually drops down pretty easily. Look at that. I'm gonna go underneath the car and just grab it and slide it out from underneath. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and remove this, I think it's the O2 sensor. And then we're gonna install it in the downpipe. Oh my gosh, there we go. Wow, that was nice. And it's all black and yucky, so we're gonna take some sensor cleaner and we're gonna clean all that off and then put it into the downpipe here. And get rid of the DPF. And we're going to take the downpipe, get it into position, and we're going to start to install each of these sensors. And these sensors really can only go in one way, and they're only threaded a certain way, so you shouldn't have any problems lining up which goes where. It's a 22mm box wrench. All right, that one's good. Now let's get this one. This guy seems like he's a little tight, so we're gonna line this up right here. So 17. All right, I was able to get this thing down pretty easily. I just loosened up one of the sensor wires and it was able to drop down. And there is a little gasket that came off of your DPF that you need to reuse to connect this thing back up. So you want to get that gasket down in here and slide it up into where it's going to go. And then work this bracket, this clamp, back on to the exhaust. I tightened up the bracket clamp for the turbo, except I left it a little bit loose so I could have a little bit of movement. We're going to go underneath now and hook up the through bolts to the bottom side of the exhaust of the downpipe, which is right here. And this thing is pretty flexible, so we're going to line it up with this downpipe and then put in the, there we go, that was really easy. I'll put in the 3 13mm bolts.